Hey, I'm Taylor, and welcome to Business of One, a podcast where I break down everything I'm learning about running a solopreneur business, navigating the creator economy, and trying to figure out how to blend the roles of creator, founder, and entrepreneur. And I teach creators how to think more like founders and founders how to think more like creators because I believe the future of entrepreneurship involves both. And over the past few years, I've studied the creator economy really closely, first as a journalist and then as a strategist and ghostwriter. And I founded my own creator consultancy, Cromwell Creative. And I've also worked with companies like HubSpot and Beehive, kind of seeing the front lines of the creator economy. And I have profiled newsletter operators, business builders, entrepreneurs, and now I want to apply all of these lessons to my own business and to share what I'm learning in real time so that you can learn some of these lessons for yourself. And so in this podcast, I'll share more of what I'm learning as I run my own experiments, grow my audience, launch paid products, and try to build a sustainable media business of one. So why this podcast and why now? I have been trying for the past few months to kind of put to words what I feel like the moment we're in right now is. And I feel like we are in the middle of a big shift of things. So when I started freelancing a couple of years ago, I quickly realized that the traditional freelance mentality wasn't going to be enough for me to build a sustainable business. Because if you're just focused on landing the next client or chasing another contract, you're still at the end of the day thinking like an employee, and the companies are the ones that have the power in the situation. And what really changed for me was learning how to think like a founder, think like a business owner. So I had to get very serious about systems, content, visibility. I knew I needed to have inbound leads, people come to me to work together, and not just like outbound pitches where I'm just like continually hustling to get the next client in the door. I needed a personal brand, like whether I liked it or not. I needed something that I needed a narrative around what it is that I do and how I can help people. And I found that the best way to do that, especially if you're a solo operator, is to create content, to build an audience, to build a relationship with them, to share what you know, share what you're learning, and to make yourself discoverable. And the opportunities that come your way are exponential from this act of putting yourself out there. But the shift is also behind the scenes as well. And there was a lot that I needed to do internally in my business to make it more sustainable. Things like finances, tracking time and projects, thinking about revenue streams, automating, delegating, using tools. All of these things make a business of one possible without making you go literally insane. And so that's the stuff I want to cover too, because I had no one to tell me what I needed to use and when. And so, I'm going to explore all of these things in future episodes. And I think that where we are now is what I'm thinking about it is that we're entering this like third wave of work. So there is that traditional corporate path that we saw through the 20th century, 40 years at a company. Now we know people aren't working in that capacity. And then there's been a lot of talk around the gig economy. People are just wanting to contract. They're wanting to cobble together all these different things. And it's a good step in the right direction. But still, at the end of the day, the companies are in charge and you are not in charge of your business and your earning potential. And now the creator economy is unlocking this next way of working, which is you are the company and you are responsible for making the money and building the audience and securing your future. And it's incredibly empowering to be able to do this, but you also need to know how to do it right. And it involves a new way of thinking, again, a new way of doing business. And that's what I'm trying to help people do. And what's been so exciting to me about the work I've been doing the past couple of years is seeing how many people are turning super niche passions and specific expertise into 6-7 figure businesses. So not only are they replacing their corporate income, but they're building really, really like life-changing businesses off of doing what they love. And this isn't just about building a newsletter media company, but it's what are all of the ways that this can exist through communities, products, events, courses. There's so many different opportunities out there. And I read an interesting piece from an investor that called this the passion economy. And I love thinking about that because it really does like unlock, like maybe you are not passionate about being a mid-level product marketing manager for a consumer goods company. You're just kind of a clog in the wheel. You don't really care about marketing cereal or something. But if you could take your specific, passion, maybe it's helping early career graduates navigate their first job. Could you turn it into a 7-figure business? That is so like life-changing, the ability to do something like that. And so there was a story that I covered earlier this year. It was a case study I wrote for Beehive, and it's really stuck with me. And I kind of point people to it all the time when I'm talking about the power and the potential of creator economy and like using the right tools to build your business. So there's a guy, Michael Kaufman, and he's the founder of Catskill Crew, which is a newsletter focused on Catskills, which is in upstate New York. And he really loved outdoor activities like fishing, and just kind of like taking advantage of all the Catskills has to offer. But he realized that there was no real like central source of like events happening. And so he created this newsletter, and it very quickly turned into a community, because it turns out the people that are looking for events in the Catskills to meet other people, they want actual community. And so he started doing these meetups, people started befriending each other. And it just like cascaded into this thing where now like local businesses are reaching out to him to partner with an event. They'll sponsor it, and they're getting all of these amazing like local leads for their business. And the last I spoke with him, which was in January, he was on track to make about $57K in a month. And so I'll link in the show notes the article that I wrote and links to his work. But I just love his approach, because he's like, I'm having fun. Like, I'm doing what I love. I'm building this audience, and then I'm just testing what my audience will like. And so at one point, he wanted to try a game board to create the Catskill version of Monopoly. His readers voted yes, try it. And he did it. And it has gone so like gangbusters crazy, where like the local shops in the area want to buy it wholesale, and it has brought in tons of revenue. And again, it's like you would never imagine, oh, I just create a Monopoly board, that's the like a revenue driver for my business. But that's where, again, you can get really creative, and I think there's just so much like potential there. And so to bring it back to my business and what I'm learning, I am kind of taking all of these learnings and also running an experiment in my own business. So I feel like what better way to talk about the creator economy than to actually be in it and to talk about what I'm learning and what I'm doing, and to figure out how I monetize my audience. How do I build this ecosystem between a podcast and a newsletter, and my LinkedIn presence, all of those things. And so the kind of flagship product that I'm building is Creator Diaries. And I picked that pretty like intentionally, because I wanted it to feel off the cuff, very story driven, not super polished, just like a place where I can share what I'm learning, and also share the stories of other people. So I would love to eventually, interview more creators, and not just like the big names where you just see them hit all the circuits, but other people that are building 6-7 figure businesses through, an untraditional path, and they're monetizing their audience, and getting that kind of off the cuff conversations, because I think that's where we learn the most. And I'm a big fan of podcasts like Diary of a Creator, not Diary of a Creator, Diary of a CEO, and My First Million, and Nathan Barry's podcast. But those focus on a very specific type of person, kind of someone that's already made it, super big names, and I think it's great to learn from those, but I also want to learn about the people that are still figuring it out, still growing, still starting out. And so in my Creator Diaries newsletter, I'm building out on Beehive. I think it's the best tool that creators can use to start to own their audience and build out their product offerings. And so right now I'm in the process of figuring out what would a paid version of Creator Diaries look like. Like if I were to actually think of this as a media brand, what would be super valuable to people? How can I share, frameworks and behind the scene guides and all these things that would be valuable to people? And again, to go in depth and to show what a modern business of one looks like. And I'm also going to be sharing this again in this podcast and sharing the learnings as I go. And then another fun one, again, what I have found working with Beehive and with other Beehive creators is that as soon as you see the power of newsletters, it's hard not to catch this bug of like, I have 100 ideas of things that I need to start and things that actually would do really well. And so the real challenge is like scaling this into something smaller that you can actually work on. So right now I have 2. I have a third one in the works. So I'm like, but I need to get the 2 done first. But my second one is Pub and Property, which is kind of like, again, a hobby of mine, talking about luxury properties in the UK and travel recommendations. And I just kind of want to encapsulate this like love of the countryside, historic pubs, slow living, slow travel. I feel like it really, resonates with me as someone that's kind of working in a high-paced tech-driven world. Is I want this like antidote that I can look at pretty properties and whatnot. So I'm having a blast, and I'm also from a business perspective taking a different approach in terms of the growth here. So I am using TikTok. TikTok's my main growth channel, and we've already got about 5,000 followers on TikTok, and I'm seeing how I can use TikTok as the main driver to the newsletter to get people on the list. So we'll be sharing more lessons from that as well. So basically, this is, a glimpse into what you can expect. I want to keep each episode pretty short, just like 10 to 15 minutes. Others, like I might occasionally do more longer form interviews, but I just want this to be a pretty informal space where I share what I'm testing, things I'm reading or listening to, because that is really my love language, to be like, oh, I read this interesting article, here's what I'm thinking about it, how I'm applying these lessons, sharing some tactical advice and tips. I want to kind of create this, what feels like a group chat for solo creators. And so if you are building a business of one or dreaming of starting one someday, I hope this is just a space that can give you a little boost of motivation, inspiration, and the community you need to keep building, keep going. So thanks for listening to episode 1. If any of this resonated, I'd love it if you could subscribe. And if you want to go deeper, you can also join the paid version of Creator Diaries. And we'll be back with the next episode next week.